Hello and welcome to Bennett's Bike Social and the latest episode of Talking Heads. Delighted to thank our sponsor, the motorcycle clothing brand Diffie. That's difi-mc.co.uk. So I'm Michael Mann, and joining me today, all the way from Melbourne, Australia, it's the man who barely needs an introduction, and you know full well he'll always have a smile on his face, especially in a Ibiza nightclub at 3 a.m. It's Carl Cox.
How you doing, Mike?
Well, I'm all right, mate. Thank you very much. How are you?
Fantastic, absolutely.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. So how's it all been for you?
Not a lot of people really know where I came from. How do I fit into all of this? What's going on? You know, why am I still here doing and supporting sidecar racing? And, you know, I could be anywhere in the world, and there I am freezing my nuts off at Craignabar, waiting for some sidecars to turn up. You know, the thing is, I just love all aspects of motorsport, and I have done since I was a child. Growing up in South London, the nearest racetrack to me was always Brands Hatch, and I used to go down there and watch the bikes racing down there in the very early days of the 70s. And my biggest passion for me, and I race myself, is drag racing. So down at Centerport Raceway in Northamptonshire, I was always taken down there by some friends of mine to go see race cars. Drag cars, basically, do the quarter mile, and you know, get down there the fastest you've ever seen, and then I started to do drag racing myself. And in my early days, I had a Mark 1 Ford Capri, and
2.8.
It was a 3 litre actually, so it was a Mark 1 with the 4-speed manual box, and I blew it up a few times, and I thought, sod this is too expensive. I'll get back to it at one point in my life to drag race. But I always used to go down there once a month with any type of car. It's called Run What You Brung. Yeah. And it's like an old Mini, or it didn't matter what it was. As long as you got on the tarmac and you went for gold, that was the exhilaration about it. And I loved it. And it got to a point where drag racing for me didn't make any sense anymore. And I got a proper car, which was a Mercedes 560 SEC, which I still have it today. And all the parties that I did in the UK, up and down the country, I drove that car, which I still have today. And which didn't break down, and wheels didn't fall off, and exhaust didn't fall off, and all that kind of stuff that used to happen to me in the early days. But meanwhile, while all that was going on, before I started getting into cars, my first motorbike was a Yamaha FS1E. And this was a great bike, you know, something you could afford when you was just coming out of school. And my friends also got them as well. And one friend of mine had an AP60, the Suzuki with the 6-speed. And he'll get 2 miles an hour more than us because he had the 6-speed, you know. And we all have expansion pipes and clip-ons and all that sort of stuff with our little fizzies. and some of them used to seize up because they got too hot because they used to heat seize. And the one little tiny piston and the gudgeon pins holding everything together. It used to melt inside the cylinder bore, and we had such fun with those bloody things. And then I went from that 50cc to a DT175 Yamaha, and then I went from that to an LCRD 250 and then 350. And then after that, I stopped riding for years and years and years. And I started riding again when I got to here in Australia in 2003. And I basically went to get my license here in Australia, which I did. My first bike again here was a CB250. Then after that, Honda. Then I went to a VTR 250. And so it's my poor man's Ducati, which was a V-twin 250. Oh, it used to sound like one. And I went from that to a Fireblade, so the Honda Fireblade. So it's like whoosh. Okay, how do I ride one of these fast and without killing myself? So I went into the California Superbike School here in Australia. And then when I got back to England after riding here in Australia, I had to take my test again. So I had to take the CBT. My first bike, going back riding again, was a CB 125. Yeah. So a CBR 125, a Honda, the Honda. And so here I am, big guy, little 125, 58 mile an hour. I'm thinking, I'm going to die. I'm on a dual carriageway, and all these trucks and lorries are passing me. I'm like, oh man, this ain't a good idea. Anyway, so I managed to pass my test after 2 years. And then my first bike was the Repsol Honda, the Fireblade.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was riding that for quite a while. Then I've got a Ducati, 1198 Ducati, and then Hayabusa. So that's
no messing.
There was no mess, and I went boom, boom, boom. And now I have over 80 motorcycles, race bikes, sidecars, and I drag race. I've got some amazing drag race cars. And basically, Colcott's Motorsport was born around about 2013. It all started from a sidecar race team in New Zealand called Smith and Shorter Racing. I've started sponsoring them, and then basically I sponsored another sidecar team, and everything started to accumulate in New Zealand, where I was taking the sidecar team to the Ironman TT, and that's how that all started. And then once we got into that, and then I started sponsoring some of the riders there in the Ironman TT, Michael Dunlop being one of them. And then I started with Clive Paget and sponsoring his team with his riders. And then in the Manx, I was supporting Team Classic Suzuki with Michael. Yeah. And then we had a New Zealand Kiwi rider called Jay Lawrence, and he entered with Team Classic Suzuki and Colcott's Motorsport. We linked up together, so he was racing for us last year at the Manx. So I kind of got into it quite heavily in some ways. And this year I had Shane Richardson and Damo Rees from New Zealand racing at the BSB for Colcott's Motorsport this year. And then on the Ironman TT, Michael Dunlop was getting sponsored by me. Again, Dave Molyneux was sidecar racing for me this year, and Greg Lambert as well, sidecar racing. So 2 sidecar teams, Michael and Clive Paget going in as well. So I had a lot going on, and of course nothing's happening, including my own racing for drag racing, which I actually entered at a professional series called the 400 Thunder drag race professional series with my new Pro Mod car from the States, which is very, very fast. And it's very competitive. I was really looking to go great guns with that this year, and that's all kiboshed as well. So I've ended up cooking banana bread at home and creating a vegetable garden patch. So that's what's happened to me.
So your friend of mine, Michael Neves, he talked to me about your latest drag car investment with many brake horsepower. What's that about? Is that the one you mentioned?
Yeah. So basically, it's called a Pro Mod, and they basically professionally race these cars in the States. So these things are very, very fast, and I kind of got into the idea of the kind of racing that I could get into at my level in the sense of entry, which is still not that bloody cheap. But the idea was that I wanted to go faster. So when I was racing my Ford Capri, which is a very fast car here, over 200 miles an hour at 6.9 seconds, quarter mile. So that is faster than any motorbike can go down that track, unless it's a bloody
drag bike.
A drag bike, basically, yeah. It's a very fast car. But to go any quicker, to get into a different category, I had to buy a different car. So, and the only car that I could buy was a Pro Mod from the States. So it took about a year to get it. And I got it from a race team called a guy called Jose Gonzalez. And he basically put this car to the top. It won two Pro Mod championships with the car. So the fastest it's been is 5.4 seconds at 272 miles an hour. So yes, it's very, very fast. It's one of those things you look at and you just shake your head, and you normally say to yourself, I wouldn't like to drive that. But yes, I get in it, and it's on YouTube. You can go Carl Cox Mustang. You can see me in the car, not racing it because I'm just doing test runs at the moment. But it's been, I've done exhibition runs with it and everything. Fastest I've been in it so far is 6.1 seconds at 234 mile an hour. So it's the fastest I've ever been at a quarter mile distance in anything. So I would like to take the title as the fastest DJ in the world.
Yes.
That's my title. I can't see any other DJ mad enough to do it anyway. But I really, you know, I've been into drag racing. I love it. I watch it religiously. I soak it up. It's one of those things where people don't realize that my hobby is this. But I'm very much involved in all aspects of drag racing from a professional series level. And I'm going to be bringing it over to Europe to drag race European rounds. And Centre Pod is very much the centre point of professional pro mod racing. So we were going to come back, come to bring it all over, the circus of it, not this year, but next year. But it looks like with everything that's going on with the COVID-19 into COVID-20, I'm sure, we'll bring it in 2022.
Yeah.
So Carl Cox with my drag car and the drag car team and everything would be on British soil. So it will be back. It will be like me coming back to hollow ground of how I started drag racing in my early days.
Back to Santa Pod.
Yes.
And hopefully there'll be some kind of sash or a crown for you to wear. Fastest DJ in the world.
Yeah, I can have that. I can't see anyone being any faster than me in this realm. It's
also
impossible.
You've got a couple of years now to shave some extra 0.1 of a second off your best time.
Well, the problem is I've got to lose a few kilos because less weight is more speed.
I don't know, when you've got that amount of speed, you can be whatever size you want.
Yeah, that's right. All you got to do is just turn it up a bit and it compensates. But it's pretty fast. I mean, when you see it on YouTube, it doesn't really give you the scope of how fast it really is. But I can send you some videos of what it looks like going down the back end. And it's like a bullet out of a gun. You know, when you're standing there and you see something go past at over 200 miles an hour, you can't believe it. It's like being at the Isle of Man TT. Yeah. When those bikes go past, you just cannot believe that it's some wobbly bit on hanging onto the handlebars is going past you at that kinetic speed. It's incredible to see.
We did some filming last week on a runway locally, on a disused airbase, we were doing car versus bike. I can't really say too much about it because this video will be out before that video.
Right.
But the fella turned up in a 1600 brake horsepower Nissan GTR. It was
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, off the line, you think that for the first few yards, you think, oh, is he? Yeah, boom, and he's gone. And you're like, what the hell? So taking the facts and figures you just announced into consideration, man, that must be something to watch.
It's basically when I let go of the trans brake button from a standing start. Once I've got the car up on boost because it's turbo, it basically reached the 60-foot mark at just under a second. So as soon as I let it go, 60-foot mark a second, and that kinetic energy is carried all the way through to the quarter mile. Now the G-force of that is probably about 3.2 seconds. 3.2 Gs going out, and then when I pull the parachutes, it's probably about 3.5 to 4 Gs to pull you back. Otherwise, I'm going for a ride. So
blimey, that's pretty severe. No, so your passion for motorsport really grew from when you were at Santa Pod when you were a nipper, yeah? Yeah,
that all started. I mean, I used to watch rally and motocross, all sorts of stuff. On the world of sports, on a Saturday when they were Dickie Davis and everybody, I just loved it. I just loved any aspect of it. I mean, and before I had a motorbike, I was always, in the woods on push bike, doing speedway, pedaling away, and I come back full mud, bikes really, it was all fully muddied up, the bike and everything. I just loved it. I just loved being out on two wheels. I've always loved that. I've always been enjoyed the fact of the freedom of it all. And I mean, my thing about being on these bikes now, and I have an amazing array of them all, and supporting someone like Michael Neves as well as actually Michael Dunlop, because with Michael Neves, where I had a really great association with him from first meeting and him riding with us for all the time he was going back and forth to Ibiza and having that kind of camaraderie of riding and everything once I passed my test. It's just been an amazing journey. But I like doing track days on a motorbike. I really do enjoy it, but I don't have the eye for it. So I do roll. So say like Michael, for instance, will get himself around the Phillip Island at maybe 1:41 seconds, and that's on a bike that's 25 years old, and I'm on a brand new, Ducati or something, and mine's like, 2 minutes 4 seconds or something. You know, it's a big difference between speed. But even so, I can pick that up a bit more. But just learning the bike more and more, getting smooth, just enjoying the track. You know, ride within my limits and means, come home in one piece, that kind of thing. But if I'm in a car, I lose my mind. You know, I want to go fast at any point, and not like on street race or anything like that. It's just when I get on the track in the car, and then I'm flat stick, I'm into it. I hit all the apexes, and I just go for gold every time. And at the moment, I've just been doing some iRacing here for V8 supercars, and I did it about 3 or 4 weeks ago, where I had my own kind of livery on a V8 supercar with a Mustang, because I'm into my Mustangs, and I got to basically have the virtual reality goggles on, get into a simulator, and then drive that car and race it around Bathurst. Yeah. Now I'm in a sim. I've never been in before. Virtual reality. I've been in it a couple of times, but it's quite disorientating. Going around a track that I've never been around before, with some of the greatest, drivers of all time, and then here I am on the grid, in virtual reality going around. Well, actually, I didn't do too bad. It was, there were some spectacular race crashes, and turn one was a nightmare, and all this sort of stuff. But I really enjoyed it. Getting out there doing sim racing is fantastic. I want to kind of get more into that, because all the time that I can't move around these days anymore, I think iRacing, or even just getting into a simulator, will float my boat until we can actually get to the tracks wholeheartedly. But I mean, I do miss, going to, the races. I miss going to see the races at MotoGP, World Superbikes, BSB, of course. And, I get invited to go and see the races of Formula One as well. And now V8 Supercars here in Australia, which is brilliant. I'd absolutely love it. So at any given moment, I try to show my face as many, races as I can, and still DJ, of course, and still have to try to, enjoy my life, riding my bikes and with my cars and everything. But I'm trying to have this balance between all of these aspects, but also show the support that I have and the love for motorsports. It's something that's been within me as a hobby for many, many years, and now it's come to some sort of fruition. And people are understanding that me getting involved or supporting somebody actually does help. So
year on year, your support has got bigger and bigger, hasn't it?
It used to until this time now. My disposable income just became non-existent at the moment. So I will be kind of carrying on as much as I possibly can, but unfortunately for some, it's not going to happen in the distant future, because we're going into a recession now. It's going to happen. Yeah. We're all going to be pulling up our socks and tightening our belts on everything. And I think for motorsports, it's going to be exactly the same. For all sports, cricket, tennis, everything. It's going to take a while before we're going to get back to how it was, before this all started. And for my own kind of like efforts for motorsport, I'll be basically tightening up the belt and then trying to kind of have as much money for my own self to go racing, because the only sponsor that I have is me. I don't have any major sponsors. I'm basically privateer that was able to help others, and I still can up to a point, but it's going to be a kind of a situation where it becomes realistic, and before I can go forward, I've got to go backwards to go forward. So it's kind of like getting back to what it was to begin with, and then I can basically build up the motorsport team once again for the future.
So other than baking banana bread over the last couple of months, what else have you been doing? Playing virtual V8 supercars.
This was brilliant, yeah. You know what? I mean, I've been doing a lot of live kind of like shows from my house here in Melbourne, doing streaming shows on social platforms, and my recording studio that I have here as well. We've been doing most of the big shows in that studio. So I still reach out to people by what I'm doing. I do a show called Cabin Fever. Now, Cabin Fever is something of which I felt like when we were locked in, that's how I felt. But here, my garage that I have here in Melbourne, I have over 150,000 pieces of vinyl, which I've been collected over the years of being a DJ, from 1968 all the way through until probably about 2007. Just pure, utter vinyl of everything you can think of to do with black dance music, to do with commercial top 40 records, Vera Lynn to Madonna to the Birdie song to Richie Hawtin to Sven Bass to Lauren Garnier. I have everything. So I said to myself that I would do my streaming show, and you guys will get it on a Sunday afternoon
Yeah.
at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, and it's a 1 hour show where I'll just play vinyl, where I mix vinyl, play vinyl, and that's it. So the music that comes out on vinyl actually is amazing, because a lot of the music you just can't find, you can't get it on download. It's one of those things where I actually have a treasure chest of just amazing music, of which I basically just get to play and just share. So that's one of the things that I'm doing at the moment, is doing my live streaming shows, and everyone seems to be enjoying it very much so.
That's a 40-year collection you've got.
Yeah, it's quite scary. And I can't believe that when I play these records that they actually still play very, very well. You know, I'll kind of keep them quite preserved as much as I can. But to still pull the record out of the sleeve and to still, you know, you blow the dust off it, you know, and you put a needle on the record and you wait for it to go, and actually it still plays, and you're like, you still got the sound of when it was recorded back in the day, and the depth of it on, and how analog it feels. And I'm like, that's a testament to vinyl, you know, at the end of the day. I mean, you're right, a lot of that music goes back 40 years, and I can put a needle on the record today and it still sounds that great. So I'm really enjoying kind of going back, you know, back in the time of what I loved about music, and how I shared that track from that album or that mix, or how I put this music together, and I still have that behind me. So it's wonderful to be able to have the ability to do live streaming shows with the music and the vinyl that I have.
It's tremendous. And do you remember your first record? Have you still got it?
Yeah. I mean, the first record that I actually ever bought with my own money, not my dad's money, it was, I remember buying it in 1976. It's a Tamla Motown record at HMV in Sutton High Street. And it cost, I think, $4.99 at the moment. At that time, it was an album. And it was Dinah Ross, Love Hangover on Tamla Motown Records. I still have it.
You still playing it?
100%, yeah. It's a great tune, and she's a fantastic artist. Dinah Ross was supposed to play at Glastonbury this year. She was going to come back and play, and I was really getting excited about that, and because I was going to be playing there as well, and of course, COVID-19 put paid to that.
So you've had to cancel a lot of your touring plans this year. You were supposed to be in the UK. Or presumably, you're supposed to be in the TT right now, were you? The Isle of Man?
Yeah, I can't believe it. And you guys have the most amazing weather right now. This is not fair. It's just not. I cannot believe how good it is, because I have a property on the Isle of Man as well, and I was really looking forward to staying there. We've got actually between Crosby and Ballacrane is where my house is, right on the track, and I was looking forward to going back, and I was like, I can't even get anywhere near it. But
it must be near Gorsley.
Sorry?
Is it near Gorsley, Greba Castle? I kind of.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, you know your TT. It's awesome going, but when you go past it on your bike, when there's no one there, and you kind of get your head down, outside, you can only do 40 mile an hour.
Yeah.
you still.
Have you ever done a closed road lap of the island, by the way?
I haven't. No. The only time I went round with a closed track where they take you around in the car. You know, when they take the guests around to say, you know, you get the feel what it's like to go around there and at full pin. And it was absolutely awesome. You know, my favourite part actually is going down Bray Hill.
Yeah. Going
down there, Aggo's Leap, and you go all the way down, you know, and I'm just like, oh my God. It's just brilliant. Yeah, I love that. That's my favourite part.
It's exhilarating straight from the go, isn't it? As soon as you
straight from the go. You go back there by the schoolyard and go, oh, the traffic lights. And you go, you get up there and you go, yeah, a little jump, and Aggo's Leap, and whoosh. Over, and you go all the way down, you pin it until you get the quarter bridge, and you know, on the pin you turn right, and you're like, oh, that's the first part of it all. It's like, wow. And that's why I appreciate those guys, that they ride so well and so hard and fast. You know, Pete Hickman, you know, and Dean Harrison. I mean, these two guys for me last year were just phenomenal. And you know, Dean was basically going out and being faster on his flying lap.
Yeah.
You know, where Peter would be faster on his second lap.
It would build up.
Yeah. And for me, that's incredible, really, how they get themselves around. But yeah, so going back to my events, yeah, every one of them are cancelled for the whole of the year. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be DJing again until maybe March 2021.
Really?
So I'm here for the long haul at the moment. I can't see myself coming back to Europe at the moment. There's nothing really for me to come back for. I'll probably end up with an Aussie accent the next time you speak to me. So.
I won't even pretend to try and do one.
Oh, good day, mate. How's it going? Come on.
DJ in the world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That'd be right.
Oh, mate, well, that's a real shame that everything's been canned, really, isn't it? It's just it leaves you with well, at least you've got the ability to do stuff from your own house. You've got that immense record collection to
yeah.
And just talk to us then a little bit about your motorcycle collection. You've got how many? 80, you said, right?
Yeah, over 80 bikes. And the mad thing was, I think what happened with me, to be honest, when I stopped riding, I missed all the bikes that came out at that time. The Ducati Ducati 851 Strada, the Ducati 916, the first, the Yamaha, what was it, the FZR. R1, I think it was the Delta Box ones, and I missed all of those amazing bikes. The Honda RC30, RC45. Every one of these bikes, I don't know what they were like to ride. I know the Halo bikes and Hero bikes and everything, and I missed all that plethora of racing and everything. So I when I first got my first classic bike, which was a Honda 4. And then, and I remember when Honda 4s came out, they just sounded like Ferraris, because they were inline 4 engines, and they, you revved them up and run. There wasn't like a BSA or an AGS or any of those bikes at the time, because those British bikes never had electric start. You had to always kickstart them and get them under compression, get the choke out or advance the timing, all of that. And I'm like, why would I want a BSA when I can just get a Japanese bike that goes, and then it went like hell, I think one of my favourite bikes actually was probably the air-cooled GT350 triple, the Suzuki. I think that, and then I think they did a 350, I think they did a 550, 650? And 750, and they're all air cooled until they went water cooled, and I just loved the sound of two stroke, and these things were just incredible. And then I remember watching the movie Mad Max, and they premiered like the Z1000, the Quacker, and then the Goose did this big licky up the road, I mean, 1,000cc. My friend had a Mini, and his engine was 850cc, and he got 1,000cc on the bike. You're like, oh my god! I fell in love with these bikes, and I couldn't get my hand to them. So, and also I wasn't interested in them anymore because I stopped riding. So I think my collection was based on what I'd missed, and then I'll get on them and ride them, then understand what it's like to own them, feel what it was like, and to be able to have the ability to race some of them as well, because some of them are in race form too, like my GSX-R 750, and I've got a race RC30, I've got a Harris Suzuki XR69, and I've got a few really nice, tasty race bikes, and I've got a Katana as well. In the fold, so I've got these bikes are absolutely phenomenal. I don't race them actually. I do exhibition laps when I go around, so, and hope that I don't beat any of them because they need to be raced on them. But apart from that, I think that my collection. I love Ducatis. I love MV Augustas. Obviously very Italian in their way, but I appreciate the style of them and what they stand for. But also, I do have a plethora of Kawasaki's, Yamahas, BMWs, and the list goes on. Yeah, all of them.
So, what determines whether you keep them or whether you sell them?
So they all have to be collectible. So they are kind of numbered bikes. Right. So if Ben Bostrom only made 155 of them, and then I have one of them already numbered and signed off on. So I've got 1 of 55. My Desmo Sedici, they were only supposed to make 1,000 of them, but they made 1,500 of them because of demand. and my one's 1189 of 1,500. So they're all numbered or signed off bikes. I have two Rossi replica bikes, one he signed and one which is signed by company, which is numbered, and then another one which he actually physically signed, which I'm really happy about. The 2008, 2009 version of the Yamaha one, and then they made the new one, the cross-plane crank version, and I got a Rossi replica in that. So I got two of his 46s at the time when he had the Fiat Yamaha livery on those bikes. So these are the kind of things that I'm looking for in my bikes. My latest bike, actually, in fact, I've got two latest bikes. Actually, I've got three latest bikes. But the two that I really have, I mean, I have the Honda RCV 213, and that's here at the moment, which is absolutely phenomenal bike to have, to own, to ride. I never want to drop that thing ever. And the latest bike is the MV Agusta Claudio, the last of the F4s, which is they only make it 100 of them. I've got one of them, and I only rode it last week, and it's absolutely delicious. I just want to eat it. It's just the carbon fiber wheels alone are just delicious. The whole bike is phenomenal. And so I have a Tamburini, and I have a 675 Serie Oro, and I have the F4 Claudio. So that's kind of like my bookend of the Tamburini, the Serie Oro, and now the Claudio.
So you're an MV aficionado.
Yes.
And tell me, so you talked earlier about the Fizzy was your first bike. Have you still got that? Have you still got your first ever bike?
No, actually. I mean, my Fizzy was a bit of a bitzer. So my tank was.
You wanted to go faster on it.
Yeah. Well, my tank was purple, and when my side covers was a Kenny Roberts yellow.
Yellow and purple.
It was a bit of a bitzer. Yeah, I mean, at the time, a lot of people crash these bikes, and you get bits from all over the place. So, but as soon as I kind of got my bike in some sort of order, and then I wanted to go faster, and then eventually I stepped it up to the 175. It's when you can still actually ride that bike on L plates on a driver license. But of course, when a few people had a few accidents on the Yamaha LC 250 to 350, 250s. That's where the government changed the laws on if you're going to ride anything more than a 250, you got to pass your test, so you can ride the 350. But then also, the minute the bike you could only ride on an L's was a 125. So I was kind of out the game once that all started, because I didn't end up with I didn't get the 350. I ended up with a 250, and then after that I stopped riding. So, but I do have in my collection two LCRD 350s and one 250. So I get back on that bike, and it's like, where's the rest of it? When you're at school, you're like, it's the biggest bike in the world. And today, it's
like a scooter.
You know what I did? It's like a scooter. You know what? The funniest thing, when I got my 350, I got it from Japan. It's gorgeous, blue and white. It's a beautiful piece. I was looking for the electric start. So, I was like, where's the electric start? He goes, no, you got to kick it over. I'm like, I haven't kicked a bike over since I was at school, So I was like, where's that then? And I was like, oh, okay, and I found it. And the kickstart's about this big. Anyway, so the two-strokes don't have much compression, but anyway, so get on compression. Wing, 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 and it started up.
Smoke out the back.
Pouring out the back. And I'm like, oh, the environment. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna, people are gonna hate me, Anyway, I went up and down, out and it on up and down the block, and it's still got some mumbo. I mean, even in second gear, he wanted to do a wheelie.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa! I was like, bloody hell. So yeah, it's fantastic bike still. That's my halo bike for me. Is where I ended up before I stopped racing was the 250, not the 350, but the 350 had better brakes. It had 2 discs instead of 1.
And what about your favourite? What if you have the favourite from your collection right now? Would it be the 350?
I would have to say the Desmo Sedici RR. I mean, you don't even have to ride that bike, and you just look at it and you just shake your head, and you think, what a nice piece of kit. And then when you do ride it, you have to ride it. It's got no rider aids on it whatsoever. Not like the BMW that's got everything. This has nothing. It's you and it. It's got an awesome engine. It's a race bike basically for the road. Actually, not for the road because it's like driving like a piece of wood really on the road. It's like and it wants to just rip your arms off. So it's not the most comfortable bike to be on the street with. But I have to say, even though I have some really exceptional motorcycles, I think the Desmo Tedici RR is just a beautiful, stunning piece of kit.
What about the one that eludes you? Are there bikes out there you wish you had, or that you've got on your eBay watch list maybe?
I think I've got them all. I think all the bikes that I ever wanted, I think I've got them all. I mean, look. I mean, there's so many like Mike Hellwood, replica bikes. Also, there's so much more I could buy into, to be honest. But I think that everything that I really wanted to get my hands on and to own and to enjoy, I think I really have some of the best motorcycles ever built that I have in my collection now today.
Oh, you must be proud. Hey, Carl, let's talk about the TT again, just quickly. So you should have been there this year, presumably, and last year you played at the closing party. That must have been pretty immense.
The thing is that they've never had the likes of someone like myself to make a party like this. So I kind of came in because the band that they had cancelled on them. So they were like, we know a DJ that can spin a bit, I wonder what he needs. Will he do it for like a beer and maybe like a ploughman's lunch or something? What do we do with him, Anyway, so I said, look, you've got to treat me like an artist because that's what I do. This is, I pull, I get the punters in and I entertain it in such a way. So yes, I'm a DJ, but the idea was to get people to understand that I'm not a wedding DJ or just some guy that does it on the weekends. This is my profession. So you have to have the crowd control barriers up. You have to make sure there's enough security, enough toilets, enough people behind the bars, and all that. They weren't ready for anything. As soon as people came in, they lost their minds. The barriers went over, the toilets had a big queue, they couldn't handle the amount of people in the bar. It was a disaster. But the actual event itself, the party, went off like you just cannot believe, and had a really great time. And as you know, poor old Keith Flint had died that year, and he was an avid TT supporter as well as being a part of a team as well, of the team traction control, and people loved him. Seeing him around at the TT, knowing he's a musician as well, and being a big part of an electronic music band. So me and him were really in cahoots and getting involved in the Isle of Man TT in the way that we were. Unfortunately, they never got to play the Isle of Man TT, but I managed to play some of their records on the island at the closing party near the end, which was a fitting tribute, as far as I'm concerned, to everyone to enjoy. And that was probably the highlight of the of my event. And it went really quickly. I was playing for 2 hours, and it went like that. We finished at 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
I never normally start my parties until 12 or 1. And I was like, I was in bed by 12. I'm like, what's going on? It's like a school disco. Like, oh my God. But it was a phenomenal event, and it would have been a shame not to do it again at some point. But I mean, I'm sure we'll be able to get back and to do this again at some point when this is all over. But it was a great party. It was really. I mean, I never go to the TT to play or my music or anything. I have done it in the past for Honda, and like 2 or 3 years before I played there, I was doing a party for all the guests for Honda. So when John McGuinness was racing from and Connor Cummins and everyone there racing, they come down and they really enjoy my music, and the people are going crazy and having a good time at the TT. But I don't go there for the music. I go there for the racing and for the bikes and the whole ethos of what it stands for. So, if I was able to give them a little bit of what I am about as well, people get to understand me a bit more of who I am.
So other than your own front garden, where else would you watch on the TT course?
I kind of, when I first started to go around the Isle of Man TT, I got to go to the Secret Garden, which is just opposite Aggo's Leap. And that was just phenomenal. Because when I first got there, I was sat in the front garden. I got my camera phone out. I stuck my hand out to take the picture, and this bike went whoosh. I was like, bloody hell. And that was the marshal. Bloody hell, whoosh. They said, no, that's the marshal. I'm thinking, bloody hell. So that was my first taste of seeing someone go past so fast. But yeah, so my first point was that goes deep. And then I got myself around to the K Tree.
Yeah.
And that was a really awesome place to get around there. And then I was down to mile 9, Black Dub. I'll get myself around there. Up the Craig. Obviously, you got to get yourself up there. You can see the bikes coming towards you. And I remember once seeing one guy. He was coming down. We're at the pub. We're watching the bikes coming down. And then I got to change down and to a right. You go down to I think Hilbury. Is it Hilbury, is it?
Brandish is the left-hander first, then you go up to Hilbury.
And they go down. And so he's coming down, he's coming towards the pub. He changed down, he went to go right, and he didn't make it. And he stood the bike up, and he's down on the gears, coming towards the pub, and all the marshals, they were just scattered. And he leant it up against the fence. I was like, bloody hell. So this is unbelievable. I just loved it, it's just brilliant. And I got myself down Hilbury, I'll say down there, obviously always start, finish straight. And got ourselves around Quarter Bridge. That's always good down there. Going to come down the Quarter Bridge, turn right, and then whoa, and away they go up the hill. So yeah, I always try and get around, find some old deer. Want a cup of tea, love? You can sit in there and go, oh, no worries. I mean, this is just brilliant. I just love that. That's the whole essence of what the TT is all about.
Yeah.
Not just the hospitality and the grandstands.
What would you change about it if you were in charge of the TT today? What would you change anything?
No, I don't think so. I think people love the fact that we're all VIPs. If we're out stuck in the wet and rain and the cold, we're all doing it. So if it's come sunny and you're really enjoying yourself going around, I love going around on a bike. I love to be able to get up, and just move around and really enjoy the island. And to make that even more corporate would take away the essence of the TT. So I think it's corporate enough. I think the TT is for people who are really infused about road racing and everything the aspect of what it gives you. You can feel you can almost touch the riders, you smell the race fuel, and just the essence of it all. It's just phenomenal. And when you get a really good story, when you see the lap times coming down and the racing, the story of the races of how they're losing at certain sectors, but they're gaining on others, and all this sort of stuff. It's really engrossing. I mean, you can't hardly talk to me when the race is on. I've got my earpiece on, listening, and they go past you, you hear the helicopter, wow, and you're like, yes, and the helicopter, and you can hear they've made a couple of attempts on them or lost a couple of attempts, all this sort of stuff, and you really hear it. I mean, I remember once we was at Kurt Michael. Yeah, so we were opposite the pub, and it was the first time when I sponsored Michael, but he was riding the Suzuki at the time, the GSXR, the new one when it came out. Anyway, so he was coming down through Kurt Michael, and I'm sticking my head out, and I've got my team there with the Cold Cost Motorsports, and so all these people at the pub were kind of bantering us, like, oh, Coxie, and all this sort of stuff going on. And Michael come rocking through there, and as he went past, his buddy missed the gear, as he was going through. So he went, oh, Michael, and he went, bah, 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 bah. I'm just sitting there going, oh, my God. And everyone went, ooh.
Like a football match.
Yeah, I said, oh, that was close, Coxie, wasn't it? I'm like, what?
He won that race, didn't he?
Sorry?
He won that race, I think, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Yeah, he won it. It was phenomenal. It was fantastic, And I said, Michael, what happened? He goes, I just missed a gear.
No drama.
Yeah, nothing to see here. It's all good. It was like, Christ. I'm like, hanging on to him.
Were you backing him this year? Because he was going to be on a Ducati, wasn't he?
100%. It was going to be awesome. Yeah, I was backing him. Yeah, all the way. And, we spoke about what he was going to do. I had to keep to him, of course, about it. Some people are really excited about the fact that he's on a manufacturer that are not known for going or winning races around a TT. But I think Ducati of now is probably a very good bike that will hold up to the stresses and strains of what the island throws up to any motorcycle. I think maybe Ducati of old were probably bone shakers and things go wrong, but I think that they're built much better these days in a sense of vibration and stability, braking, good power delivery, through the gearbox, and Michael is a very strong rider, and I think if anyone could get Ducati around now, I think he's probably one of the best, especially at the time of his life as well. He's fit, he's still at a really good age, he's hungry, he knows his limits. He's normally on the curb or near the wall. That's where he lives. But I think he's a very methodical rider, and I think he would have done really well with a Ducati this year.
Fantastic. Excellent, Carl Cox. Thank you so much for joining me. You've been an absolute pleasure. And remember, of course, fastest DJ in the world. You won't forget that one. Hey, look, we've got these stickers made up, Talking Heads. The first 20 people that email in, let's go with enquiries@bikesocial.co.uk. I'll put it in the link below. First 20, you can have a Talking Heads sticker. Mega, thanks again. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the chat. See you next time. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye for now. Bye, everybody.
I pressed the wrong button. Hey.
Can you hear me?
Hello,
you see
Carl.
me?
How are we doing?
Oh, I'm having a corona. Yeah, no, we need to get hold of them. Oh, get in, grit your teeth.
Yeah, your neck muscles a bit like that, wouldn't
it? I've been in my recording studio. I've just finished a mix for Dead Mouse and the Neptunes.
Everyone loves Michael, everyone loves you, and everyone loves the TT, so what's there not to love?
I know.
Look, the whole series is called Talking Heads, and we've had some stickers made.
Oh, cool.
I'm just gonna,
we need some of those stickers.
I'll send you one. I'll send you a bunch.
Yep, fantastic.
I come with your sash. I'll make you a sash as well. That's the DJ in the world. Oh yeah, you get back on the Corona, on the real stuff. All right, let me see if I can.
When he says very good, and then I kind of buy it. So when he said the RC213 is very good, and then he was there with Clive Paget.
Of course, because he sells them, doesn't he, Clive?
Right? Yes, he bloody does. As a conspiracy.